Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Sports Stuff video. Today, we'll talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their offseason plan of how we can turn this playoff contender who can't get past the first round, can't win a playoff game, into a Super Bowl winner. If you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. Let's get to this video of my most hated team in the NFL. So, cuts and or trades. Surprisingly, they're actually at positive $53 million. This is the one thing about the Steelers. They always are good in their cap space. They never really are in the negatives or close to being the negatives. They always have a surplus. So good on them for always being a playoff contender with a surplus. So first off, I'm going to be cutting Larry Ogunjobi at defensive end. 22 tackles, 2 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 17 run stops, and 14 pressures last year. He was trying to leave in the previous offseason, but injury negated his Chicago Bears deal, so he just returned to the Steelers because he didn't need to make it physical. He just did an extension. Team as a whole needs to move towards younger guys. You know, Larry Ogunjobi is just one of those dudes that I don't think is going to be on this team next year. He's turning 32 before the season starts. You already have so many, older guys on the defensive side of the ball that Larry Ogunjobi is one of the worst at that age. So you got to move off of him. They have Dean Lowry already on contract to replace him. He's about the same age, but he's way cheaper. Draft class is very deep with 3-4 defensive ends. So that's what I'm going to be going for. Is okay, let me, get rid of Larry Ogunjobi, draft someone who can really start at 3-4 defensive ends. I still see him coming back in this contract. You can cut him and save $7 million. That's something you got to do every day, because he's just not worth that $7 million contract. Next, you have Isaac Samalu, former guard of the Eagles, now on the Steelers. Last year, had a 68 PFF grade, 63 pass blocking, 70 run blocking. Again, another casualty of age. Mason McCormick is coming off his rookie season, and he can replace him. To me, you need to cut Isaac and use that money to go for a quarterback, whether it is a guy on the roster they're going to extend or go for a new quarterback. The offensive line in this draft is very deep, so you can get someone that is of Isaac's skill level or even better much later in the draft than you guys would think. He could return. He had a good season, only allowed 2 sacks last year. But for me, honestly, for this money, $8 million of a guy that you can replace easily in the draft or even in free agency and use that money towards a quarterback, I got to move off Isaac only for that reason. Again, it's not because I don't like him. It's because it's just the money doesn't make sense for him to return. So after those cuts, I'm going to do a few restructures and cuts, sorry. So I'm also going to be cutting Cole Holcomb, save $6 million. This isn't the linebacker you thought, He's, again, not a starter. They signed him to a really big deal for some reason. Move on from Cole Holcomb, didn't have a good year. Chris Boswell officially retired, so $3 million comes off the book. Miles Killebrew isn't a starting safety, a rotation guy in special teams. We can cut him, save $3 million. And then Cordell Patterson, again, special teamer, cut him for $3 million. Then I'm going to restructure Cam Hayward and open up $7 million of cap space. That opens up $22 million additional in cuts and restructures. And the reason I do that is because I have a lot of guys that I need to re-sign and a lot of guys I need to get into this free agency period to get better on this team. So we have $90 million entering free agency and re-signings. Who do we re-sign? First up is James Daniels. James Daniels last year had a 93 PFF grade, 67 pass blocking, and 93 run blocking. Unfortunately, he did suffer a torn Achilles in week 4. So, those numbers are kind of inflated. But he was having a career year before that. He's still only 27 years old. So he's on the win now. Not win now. He's on the timeline of, let's say you get a quarterback in this year's free agency or draft. He's on the timeline of that quarterback of having a good rookie contract. So I'm going to extend him for a few years. Only 27 years old. Retain some continuity. I gave James Daniels a 2-year, $8.5 million deal. $6 million guaranteed at 70% to come back and start for me at right guard. Next, I'm going to be re-signing Justin Fields. That means I'm not re-signing Russ. I'm going to go with the younger guy in Justin Fields. Last year, he had 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had a 4-2 record last year when starting, and I honestly was shocked that he wasn't used more later in the season in the playoffs. They should have used him more for those Wildcat packages or just, come in for a drive or two. They didn't do it. They let Russ cook the whole season, and guess what? They went 1 and done in the playoffs. So he fits the scheme perfectly for what Arthur Smith is trying to do. I'm actually shocked how good Arthur Smith's system worked this year. So let's get Justin Fields who fits this system. I always said that if Justin Fields is going to get cut, I'd want him in Atlanta with Arthur Smith. He gets him in Pittsburgh. So I don't see him wanting to be a backup elsewhere again. Some people were saying maybe he goes to the Colts and is their insurance package to Anthony Richardson. But why would he do that? Just go somewhere and start next year. So why not stay in the system where you had success? You were 4-2. You're doing well on the ground, doing well in the air. I'm going to keep Justin Fields. Give him a 2-year, $21 million deal, $15 million guaranteed at 71%. So at minimum, he is my starter next year. And if it doesn't really work out and we go with someone else that's going to be the backup, we can always cut him after the year one and save $6 million against the cap. But at worst, you get Justin Fields for a year to maybe be that franchise quarterback. At best, you have him on a great deal for 2 years. Then I'm going to be re-signing Jaylen Warren. Last year had 158 touches, 821 total yards, but only 1 touchdown. He's been a great tandem back the last few seasons. In my opinion, he's outplayed Najee Harris most of the last season and the last few seasons. You know, Najee may have the yards, but Jaylen Warren, the minute he's on the field, you feel the impact of how different this offense is. He averages 5 yards per touch. You know, I am going to have Jaylen Warren as my starter, but I also want to draft a running back to go with him. So I give Jaylen Warren a 3-year, $29.5 million deal, $23.5 million guaranteed at 79% guaranteed to come in, be my starting running back next year. You know, I love his versatility, the way he runs routes, the elusiveness when he has the ball in his hand, both the receiving and rushing game. I just like Jaylen Warren. I do think getting him on a long-term, larger deal will guarantee you have a run game for the next few years. And again, I'm also going to draft someone. So entering free agency, you now have $69 million. Nice. But yeah, $69 million. So again, reinvest in this team and really try and go for a Super Bowl next year. So first off, I'm going to be signing Tyler Huntley to be the backup quarterback. Tyler Huntley last year had 831 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. You know, he's a quality backup as an insurance quarterback. He fits the scheme really well. You know, another elusive, solid arm quarterback. Again, not as good as Justin Fields, but, you know, as a veteran backup, you trust Tyler Huntley. He has plenty of starts in his career, so if he needs to, you know, fill in for an injury, you feel comfortable enough they can fill in for the injury. I don't see any harm in having a vet backup, especially in Tyler Huntley, who can fit the scheme really well. Give him a 1-year, $2 million deal. Next, we have Darius Slayton, the BR wide receiver 2. Last year had 39 receptions, 573 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's a good slot receiver. You know, lots of experience for Justin Fields. Great first down target. Just one of the most consistent wide receivers on the Giants the last 5, 6, 7 years. So he comes over to Pittsburgh and will probably get even more looks than he did in New York with a more accurate quarterback. I give him a 3-year, $34 million deal, $27.5 million guaranteed at 80%. Again, that cap number is really good. It only peaks at 12.5 in 3 years. So if he's not worth it after 2 years, you can cut him and save $6 million. But I think Darius Slayton at that number is a steal. Next, you have Kendall Fuller. Last year had 41 tackles, 0 interceptions, 12 run stops, and 5 pass breakups. He was just cut by the Dolphins a few weeks ago. He had a solid year in Miami. You know, he was in Chicago for a long time, comes to Miami, and played pretty well. He's both a nickel and a boundary guy, so he can kind of move around that defense for you. He's very experienced, lots of starting experience, and he elevates the young core, right? You have a lot of young guys in your secondary. Kendall Fuller can come in, bring a veteran voice and experience to such a young secondary. 1 year, $7 million. You know, you don't invest too much long-term money into him, but you get a guy who can impact you in the first year. Next is going to be Peyton Turner, taking a shot on a young guy. Peyton Turner last year had 11 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 9 run stops, and 13 pressures with 4 batted passes. He is a former first-round pick for the Saints. So far, he's been a bust in the pros, but, you know, if he can go to a very high-level D-line where he can shine, I think that's something you can take a shot on. You know, he can replace Larry Ogunjobi as a 3-4 defensive end, or he's just a backup outside linebacker, 3-4 outside linebacker. But it's a 1-year flyer. If he succeeds, you find your Cam Hayward replacement. Currently, he is playing in the 3-4 system as a 3-4 defensive end. But again, I think he can easily move out to outside linebacker. But if he succeeds, he's your Cam Hayward replacement for the future. If he busts, it's a 1-year, $6 million deal. But again, 4 batted passes, that is a Cam Hayward stats. And that's what he did with the Saints last year. Very long arms. Look at this picture. Like, that is it's a long arm, dude. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good number for Peyton Turner. Then I'm going to do a massive signing with Julian Blackmon. Julian Blackmon had 70 tackles, 3 interceptions, 12 run stops, and a pass breakup last year. He is a great coverage safety, and he's a willing run stopper. That's what matters. He is 4th in run defense snaps at the safety position. So, at worst, he is active in the run game, but being the 4th safety in run defense snaps, that means something, right? You now have Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, and Julian Blackmon. That would make the best 3 trio in the league, right? Because all 3 guys all can do everything. They all cover, they all run defend, and they all can blitz. I love that. You know, it's not the best free agency class for this team's needs, so why not stack up on premier talent, right? Grab Julian Blackmon while he's really good. You give him a 4-year, $41.5 million deal, $29.5 million guaranteed at 71%. So it's not too expensive, right? that number never goes above 11.5, and it barely goes over 10 million until year 3. So I think it's a good number for Julian Blackmon. Again, Deshaun Elliott, Mika Fitzpatrick, really good run defense and coverage guys, and Julian Blackmon just adds another guy to that room. So Deshaun Elliott can now kind of be that nickel guy as well. But Julian Blackmon has some snaps at nickel corner, so maybe he can be a chess piece. We have all 3 of them out, but I really like this fit for Julian Blackmon. So now heading into the draft, you have $39 million of cap space. I'm not touching it because there's a lot of rumors that TJ Watt is going to get a massive deal, and that is going to cut into this year's cap space. So I'm not touching it, knowing that TJ Watt will probably get a big deal. So in the draft, here's what I did. At number 21, I grabbed Armin Membo from Missouri. After the combine, there's a lot of people saying that he could be a tackle in the NFL. I'm still going to move him to guard. You know, he is undersized, he has very long arms, but again, some scouts are saying that he could play tackle in the NFL. I'm moving him to guard, you know, get a really young interior offensive line, takes over for Isaac Samalu. That's his spot at left guard. Great pass blocker, great run blocker, athletic as hell. You know, have him, what's their center's name? They drafted him last year. Troy Fontenot. You know, have Armin Membo, Troy Fontenot, James Daniel as your interior offensive lineman, and your tackles, you know, obviously you have Broderick Jones, and I believe they still have Dan Moore. He might be a free agent, but they have tackles. I know they're under contract. I know they have Broderick Jones at left tackle, and I believe their right tackle is under contract, but I can't remember who it is. I don't remember his name. But I know they have an offensive lineup they can depend on and develop over the next couple of years. Armin Membo can either, you know, fight for right tackle. Go ahead and fight for right tackle and start opposite of Broderick Jones. But at minimum, you know he can start for left guard. Then number 53, I am grabbing Jordan Burch from Oregon. You know, that 3-4 defensive ends, somewhat outside linebacker guy as well. Consistently, he's gotten 20 pressures a year in non-starting minutes, right? I don't think he's going to start in Pittsburgh. Even if you do put him at 3-4 defensive ends, I don't see him starting. So if you can get 20 pressures as a second string pass rusher, that's elite, right? He's 6'6", 295. He's very versatile. Again, he can either be that 3-4 defensive end behind Cam Hayward, and maybe he can become that Cam Hayward replacement, or you move him out to outside linebacker and you feel comfortable there as well. Then number 85, grabbing Isaiah Bond, who keeps falling down his draft boards. I still think he's a good deep threat. You know, he adds another layer to the passing game. He is only 5'11", but he gets separation consistently. He did underperform massively at the combine, but I still think Isaiah Bond is the day 2 pick. And if he can get to the Steelers, that's a really good value pick for the Steelers, and a team that would definitely play him day 1. Then at number 121, I grab Will Howard. Yes, I grab Will Howard, the Ohio State quarterback. The Steelers, they grab a potential quarterback of the future. You know, he has a young upside behind Justin Fields, so if Justin Fields doesn't work out, you have Will Howard they can throw out there for a year after he's developed for a year or two and see what he turns into. Pittsburgh loves to take these high-end day 3 quarterbacks with a potential, you know, a la Mason Rudolph, Josh Dobbs, Landry Jones. Very athletic. He's played in big games, in big moments he's shown up. So I am thinking how Will Howard will probably be a day 2 pick, more of a round 3 guy. But if he's available at 121, you run and you put that draft stock in. Then at 162, grabbing Kyle Monangai, I believe is how it's pronounced, Monangai. Kyle from Rutgers. Another running back, kind of like Najee Harris, more of that thumper than elusive guy. Hard-nosed runner, gets tough yards. He fits the scheme. He can be the Thunder, the Jalen Warrens, the Lightning for cheap. His poor combine did make him drop, in my opinion. I do think he's probably going to end up being a 6th-round pick. But if you can get him in the 5th, still good value. Let him be that thumper while Jalen Warren's that scat back. And I really think that duo can make some money. Then at number 224, grabbing Jordan Hancock. He's not being a 7th-round pick. This dude is going way higher than the 7th round. Great tackler at slot corner and deep free safety. He can move around the defense, and Tomlin loves those roaming safeties. Jordan Hancock fits that mold. He's 6'1", 195, good size, and he never dropped off all year, even though they played top-end talent. Jordan Hancock stayed consistent with that solid deep free safety nickel corner. I think Jordan Hancock can really make it work in this system. Then at 230, grabbing a depth guard at Timothy McKay from NC State. Backup guard, good run blocker, injury insurance. That's my notes on him. He's an injury insurance in case one of these guys fall, that he can come in and, you know, maybe get some minutes. But at worst, is a backup. So you can always use a backup on a cheap deal. Then at 246, I'm grabbing a run blocking tight end from Alabama, CJ Dupree. Run blocking tight end next to Pat Fryermuth. He can catch dump off targets if he needs to. He's only 6'5", 262, so he definitely has to add some muscle to that frame and can stick on this roster. But, you know, again, run blocking tight end can catch some dump off passes, but he definitely has to add some frame. He has to add weight or he will not make it in the NFL. But that is my mock offseason for Pittsburgh Steelers. Honestly, I did let a lot of money roll over, but I'm expecting that TJ Watt deal to get done before free agency. So, that number is getting lower, right? Because he's currently making like 20 million. I think he'd easily make 30 million if they're going to adjust this year's cap space to match his new contract. So I decided, you know what? Let's leave 39 million in case they front load that contract because they have a lot of cap space. They can front load that contract, gets cheaper as it extends. So I left a lot of money to play with. But yeah, that's my offseason. You get a lot of guys in the draft that can either start for you or be high-end rotation guys year one that develop. You get a really good secondary kind of filled in. That's where your holes really were. Solid pass rusher, a wide receiver, a backup tight end, and you reaffirm that this is Justin Fields' team for the next 2 years with only, grabbing Tyler Huntley to back him up. That is not competition to replace him. So Justin Fields is a starter next year. You bring back Jalen Warren. You bring back James Daniel. You cut some of that older dead weight that's making a lot of money, and you invest in the future. If you guys enjoy, please let me know. Go in the comments down below, rate this offseason, and I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.